Hello, welcome to Free Spirit. We are your hosts, Nikki and Jesse. We just want to say thank you to everyone for liking and sharing all of our videos and our content on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. It does help us spread positive vibes and words more quickly to reach more people, so we definitely appreciate it. Please comment if you have something to say or if you have an opinion that you want to voice or you wish that we could get another message out there quicker and better. Just let us know, because we cannot fix it if we do not know that it is broken. So for today's topic, we are going to hit on judgment. What is judgment? Judgment is the ability to make considered decisions or to come to a sensible conclusion. It's basically just a comparison of better or worse. So when you approach someone, you're basically just looking at them and deciding how you rank amongst them. No one wants to be worse. And if you feel that you're better than somebody, then you don't have to worry about feeling inferior to anyone. So judgment pretty much just started as a survival instinct because people were just believing that there was not enough to go around, such as money, wealth, beauty, youth, strength, pretty much just anything. But people don't realize that there is an abundance in everything and it's all around.
To sum it all up, we often think that we are better than others. And I think that's why we judge, because we always want to be right. We always want to be on top. There's or superior, inferior, whatever the case might be. And I think this is why we judge so easily. And plus, it doesn't require an extensive amount of thinking when we judge. It's almost like immediately. I think we just detracted so much to a negative side of judging that it consumes us. I believe, we just shouldn't judge at all. We should just learn from one another, as opposed to, who's to say, and I know this is kind of opinionated, like right or wrong, who's to say what's right, who's to say what's wrong. And I find it easier just to keep things neutral, right? Kind of seeing like, hey, yeah, that was a bad decision, or hey, that was a good decision, as opposed to being like, oh my God, did you, they're going to go to hell, or, whatever the case might be. I tend to just remove that negative stigma of this harshly judging one another, when we're not called to judge each other. We're just called to learn from each other.
So when we feel lack, we find our own comfort in ourselves when we falsely feel good about everyone else around us, and it's all at the other person's expense. And eventually it just becomes a perpetual cycle that, we must keep chasing that feeling of feeling good by putting others down. Psychologically proven that most people who judge others more harshly, they don't accept themselves for who they are.
Yeah. And this leads us to thinking that we're better than others, right? When we're judging in this capacity where we're having to justify someone else's behaviors to make us feel better. We're always wanting to be right or on top, or whatever hidden agenda that we might have towards wrongfully judging someone.
Yeah, so it's kind of like that Michael Jackson song, "The Man in the Mirror." So
I'm looking.
Yeah. So for me, judgment should be about yourself, not judging yourself too harshly, but when you do judge, it is a reflection of you, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right, because we tend to think that we're perfect, and it's so easy to pick someone else's flaws than our own, because we believe like we're flawless, right? Like we have no mistakes, and everyone's making all these mistakes except for you. But the reality is the opposite, and people can't deal with that reality. And I think this is why they quick to judge and not look within themselves to find out their true, their true failures. And they spend so much time worrying about others, and I'm pretty sure you ran into these people where they're so concerned about what you're doing when they're not even concerned about what they should be doing.
Yeah. And actually that's kind of what I was going into, was like the psychology of it is it has been proven that when you judge somebody on something, that it is an actual true reflection of how you feel about yourself. So, for example, if you feel that you're fat, you're always going to look at other people and judge how thin or how fat they are, or what kind of food they're eating, or how much of that food they're eating. Or if you think somebody else, if you think that you have, I don't know, like a big nose or small eyes or something like that, you're always going to compare yourself to others, because it is that predatory ranking system that we have for survival kind of thing, and like mating and all that fun stuff. But we are constantly judging ourselves against others. So what we find flaws in others, it shows that we are insecure in ourselves. So instead of pointing fingers at people and being like, oh, well, you have this or this or this. I know for me, when I judge people, it's an automatic red flag for me that I need to look inside and see what is imbalanced in me, instead of this, does this person really have this or this? No, it's how I feel about myself, judging myself against that person, trying to feel superior to them. That way I don't feel lack in myself.
Yeah, it's almost like a bonding that we have with insecurity.
Yeah.
That we have to, that we have to it's almost like talking to ourselves to make us feel better.
Yeah, we're like our own hype men, pretty much.
Yeah, it's like, and then the harsh reality is it doesn't really add any value to you, because you're not dealing with the root problem. You're just masking it.
Yeah, and we really need to just start showing more compassion for others, because we don't know how they feel about themselves. And, if I say something to one person, for example, if we go back to like the fat thing, also with words too, you just accepting it as your reality. Sorry, I'm going all over the place, but, so if I tell you, hey, I think you're fat, and you already had that, a slight little inkling that you thought yourself was fat, that's like somebody else confirming your thought. And that's going to kind of spiral into being negative towards yourself and stuff like that, and judging yourself even more harshly on that situation. So then in turn, you're going to take your insecurities and project them more on other people. And it's pretty much a cycle of going back and forth, just trying to be the person who has the upper hand in this, like I said, in the ranking or with the survival skills.
And I think it's easier too to judge someone. Like, it's so much easier, especially when you're out and about in public and just anywhere where, if someone was, dressing a little weird, or maybe their clothing was tore up, or some of the stuff that I've witnessed when I was younger, like when I was in school, a lot of my friends would try to make fun of, maybe someone that was poor. And I remember one day coming in to a classroom, and my friends were talking about this kid. He had, holes in his shoes, and it kind of rubbed me wrong, because I said, hey, I told them, what if I had holes in my shoes? Would you treat me differently or less? I said, and it was kind of weird that I had this knowledge, because I was like, who are we to judge why he has? Maybe those are the best pairs of shoes, and his family's going through a hard time. So I think it's a lack of information that we have, that we're so easily to judge people on these items or these things that we see as flawed, when in reality we don't know nothing about their walk or what they're going through, or their financial situation, or maybe their where they came from. We don't know nothing. And so with everything I just said, I think we just jump into that because it's it's easily distracted, or maybe it's all ties into gossiping. I don't know.
So for me, I'm kind of getting this image of, so it's easier to knock a building down than it is to build it. So I think we just always, as people, we just take the easy way out, because, you could spend years building the most elaborate building, but it could take seconds to just knock it all the way down and it just be destroyed.
Oh, so, yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. And
I like that.
If we just start trying to uplift each other, maybe we can help each other build that building.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And very few people think that way, because I think they just don't think. It's just not. It's
because it takes work. It does. It takes work to compliment somebody. If you're walking up to someone, when you first initially want to say somebody did a good job or something, you're probably thinking it in your head and you're like getting all excited kind of thing. And then you have to say it. Whereas, if you're going to say something negative about somebody, it's like an instant thought kind of thing. Instead of putting in the work to help build them up, it's better to just leave them alone and let them be torn down kind of thing.
Yeah. And it's, that always interests me that it's just that easy, and doing the right thing of not judging, just kind of taking a second to help lift them as opposed to tearing them down, like you were saying with that building. And that was a good analogy. I liked it because I definitely got a visual on that. I could see, I could just see that,
Mm-hmm. Okay. So the way that I approach judgment, because I will be the first one to say, I'm sure you've heard it a million times, is, I'm just always like, don't judge, but, blah, 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 blah. I don't know why I always do that. It's probably something in me that, I constantly feel judged or something. I don't know. But, I will always be the first one to be like, oh, don't judge. For the mere fact that, I don't like to judge others harshly either, because I wouldn't want to be harshly judged. So for me, when I look at people and I'm judging them, I pretty much put everyone on the same spectrum, just on this even playing ground of everyone is doing the best with what they have at this moment in their life. So I don't know what stage of walk they're on or what path or what journey or what lesson or anything like that. So who am I to judge them, especially because I don't want to be judged either. Of course, everyone judges, like it's inevitable, but we can change the way that we judge people. And we have the choice to either build them up or break them down.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and I know with some of the walks of, walking in Christianity, for me, I've been judged more by people of my heart, right, Christianity, than others that have not. And I could give you an instance where I was going to a particular church years ago, and some of these churches have services, more than once a week, right? They might do it Sunday, they might do it Wednesday or Friday, and they have different prayer groups. And this church was particularly small, and everyone knew each other because it wasn't a big congregation. And I remember there was a young man that had approached me and kind of asking me why I don't attend some of these other services. And it was kind of like a competition, like, oh, well, because I'm here, X on these days, XYZ, your walk is below me because you're not doing the same thing I'm doing. And in reality, he's judging me because I'm not doing what he's doing. And therefore, my walk with God is not as close as his. And so, that rubbed me the wrong way, because it goes back to what we were saying, where he didn't take that time, just to have a simple conversation. Like, oh, hey, brother Jesse, hey, we have services on these days, and, we'd love to have you if you can make it. And then I could give an explanation like, oh, hey, look, I'm working, I'm at the time I was active duty, I was working a swing shift. So the hours that they had it, I was at work. And so, he would have understood why I wasn't going there, as opposed to criticizing me for not being there. And then, then put a bad taste in my mouth with that individual, because I'm like, all right, buddy, like, I'm not here to compete with you. I'm only seeking God, right? Not here to glorify you or sit here and compete with you. That's kind of like how I took it. Was this is not a competition? If you need to go more than once, then so be it. But in my heart, I do it every day. I don't have to go to a church, or I don't have to prove anything to no one or justify anything to anyone, because they're not seeing my walk.
So, and I think a lot of people actually do that a lot. They feel like life is a competition and that they're always competing against the people around them. I mean, I guess in a sense, if it's like, work and stuff like that, they are competing. But as a spiritual being, the only person you're competing with is yourself. You should never compare yourself to others. Only compare yourself to who you were yesterday to compared to who you are today. And it is interesting that I have found as well, the people who criticize you the most, and it is a little bit sad to say this, is a lot of so-called Christians who will judge you the most harsh out of everybody, because they feel like they're kind of put on a pedestal or something like that. And I think that's why I kind of shied away from going to the church, because he didn't know your situation. But even for a Christian to be like, oh, well, you're not here, so you don't really love God, kind of thing, is God is everywhere. He's not just in a temple. He's not just in a church. He is everywhere. So for him to just kind of put that out there is that makes me question him.
Oh yeah, and this same individual, come to find out later, I guess he was married and he was committing adultery, while he was telling me this. So it kind of reflects kind of like with the stuff that we're hitting on, what's hidden inside. And it almost felt like after knowing this, that he was conflicted with himself, and by trying to bring me down to his level or make himself feel better about himself because he wasn't walking in a righteous path per se, that he felt the right to say something to me. But in reality, he should have really been holding himself accountable as opposed to worrying about what I was doing.
So that's exactly right. So going back to like the psychology of it, how I was explaining was, people, when they feel lack or they're imbalanced in themselves, that's when they start projecting it onto other people. And you see this a lot in relationships. If somebody's cheating, they'll be the first person accusing the other person of cheating. Or if they're lying, they will always be accusing others of lying. So they just amplify whatever their insecurities are, or whatever negative action that they're doing onto other people. So that way, whatever sin or whatever negative action they're doing, they can live with it because it's not so bad, because, they're trying to make it seem like the other person's doing it worse or something like that. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. And I was while you were talking, it reminded me of another instances when, I was talking about God, and I don't know, we had some conversation, and there occasionally I say a cuss word here and there, and it's just, and I know some Christians frown on it, and I have a different take on it, which I'm about to explain right now. So I was talking about something, and I just was expressing something, and maybe I said the F word, or I don't know, it was a bad word, and I had
it's a bad word in whose eyes, though?
Exactly. Right. So in Christianity, right, I guess, if we cuss, a lot of them don't look down on that. And I and that's okay. I can see why, but I take a different approach. So anyways, I had slipped up, made some, per se bad word or some. And I had another Christian come. He's like, hey, Soto, can I talk to you? I'm like, oh yeah, what's going on, bud? And he's like, hey, as brothers alike, we're here to hold account for one another. And I said, oh yeah, absolutely. And he's like, so I've noticed you were cussing out there. I said, yeah. And, the Bible tells us that, nothing foul should come out of our mouth. I said, you're absolutely right. But my foul is different than your foul, it seems like, because your foul might be cuss words. And I said, my foul is if I say stuff that is demeaning, like I hate you, I hope you die.
Yeah. I was actually just thinking that same thing. It, like, if you're using derogatory words against somebody in particular to bring them down, that's where the foul language in my eyes is, saying like a cuss word or something. For me personally, I don't feel like that is a negative thing, just because most of the time I'm using it as an enhancement word. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. To like pump people up, like that's, effing awesome, or, whatever. Right. So it's an enhancement word for me. But definitely if you're using it in a derogatory way or a negative way to bring somebody down or to suppress somebody, yeah, okay, that's where the foul language is, in my opinion, anyway.
Right. And, I feel the same way. I think saying what we consider a bad word is not going to change my walk with God, because God knows my heart, right?
Hmm.
And that's how I see it. After I explained that to him, he's like, wow, that was interesting. Like I've never heard of anyone explaining it that way. And I was like, yeah, man. I was like, that's my definition of foul. I'm not going to bring anyone down with foul language, and me using bad words is probably, like how you were saying, an enhancement word or just an expression. And so and to me, it's like, why am I going to live as someone that I'm not?
Hmm.
And because people could see through that. You could call yourself holy and not curse and do all these things, and people could see through that. We're like, oh, that person's fake. That's not who they are.
Yeah.
And that's not for everybody, but for the most part, I'm pretty sure we ran into those, those individuals that make a big stink about cussing and make a big stink about some other things that it's like, wow, it's like, why are we, this is just my opinion, of course. And if that's who you are, I love you. But, to me, it's like, I got better things to worry about than someone using the F word, or, it's just, I'm just picking my battles. Right. And to me, it's not a big deal, because it doesn't really define the individual to the point where you're questioning, I guess, not their faith, but just, who they are. To me, it's like, if you're truly who you are, it's just going to be natural. It's just going to come out easier, and you're going to be, people are going to resonate with you more, because you're not trying to portray this image that you're not. I don't know does that make sense?
No, it does. It makes sense to me. It's kind of funny because, by no means am I like, oh, make sure you're cursing or doing all this stuff. Like, if that's not for you, and that, if that's not what you want to follow, then great. Like, that is your belief. That is all on you. For me, like I said, it's an enhancement word. I don't think that I'm going to like die, get to the gates of heaven. And, even if I was the most perfect person in the world, and then, God's like, okay, what's your name? Oh, Nikki. Okay. Ooh, man, you were trying to say the word glass, but you actually said ass. So that's it. I'm sorry. Like, no can do. Back of the line. Like, I just don't think that's what's going on. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think the same way. And it's, I'm just gonna be who I am, and if people resonate with me, great, and if they don't, great, because everyone's gonna have an opinion about you, good or bad, but don't mean it's valid. And always, tell other people, like, well, their opinion is none of my business. It's like it's not going to change me, and I'm not going to be.
You're not going to change for everybody else, because you cannot please everybody else.
Yeah, exactly. You can't. You drive yourself crazy trying to please everyone else. And I'm just going to simply just be me, be non-judgmental, open the doors to everyone who wants to hear or learn from some of the experiences I have. And also I love to hear other people's experiences, and grow, as opposed to criticize, or judging, like, ooh, you said this, ooh, oh my God, and it's like, what? It's like, who has time for that? That's like, ooh.
Yeah. When I hear the word judgment, I hear the word limitations.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. There you go. That's a good one. Yeah, exactly. You're just limiting everything. And then people don't want to talk to you, because they're like, oh man, I don't want to get my words picked apart because he or she doesn't like me using, this phrase or that phrase. And, it just you're just shutting the door on people, unnecessarily.
Yeah. You know how many people in the world hate the word moist? Could you imagine, like, if I said the word moist and you're like, oh, you know what? I can't talk to you no more. Sorry. Our friendship of 5 years is down the drain because you said the word moist. It's kind of extreme.
Yeah. But you know what? And there's people like that, and and they have their reasoning, and hey, no judgment on you. It's just, I guess we're just saying this is how we are. And if you have that walk, then you have your reasons. We're just giving,
and we are okay with it. We are completely okay with that.
We're okay with that. If that's who you are, then great. It's just, for me, and like what Nikki was saying, it's just, we just got better. There's not better, but there's other things that we could focus on, other than picking apart one another's words or one another's walks or one another's mistakes. The list goes on.
Yeah, because like I said, I look at everyone else as doing their best with what they have. And if you're going to judge me because I'm saying a cuss word, I promise you that I have a million other things you could be judging me on that I'm trying to work through than just a cuss word. So put that out there.
And then, also too, like people may do stuff unknowingly, and they might not know they're doing it until you say something without judgment. Like, hey, you realize you did this? Like, oh man, I'm glad you told me that. I had no idea I was doing that. That creates more of a bond with people when you kind of bring it to their attention, and as opposed to you telling a friend and a friend telling them. Because
well, that's kind of like going to source. Like, I'll always appreciate somebody coming up to me and being like, maybe you shouldn't do this, or, have you ever thought of doing it this way, or, stuff like that, just to open my horizons. But I'm not going to judge somebody because they're saying a certain word or doing a certain thing that I don't like, because like I said, who am I to judge?
Oh yeah. I remember there was someone I worked with, and he was atheist, and he would always, every day, he would just make it a point to, I guess, try to get me to move away from God. And it was like almost every day was like, every day he was always coming up with something to talk to me about, and just picking apart my walk with God. And I told him, I said, hey man, for anyone that's told you that you're going to hell for believing what you're telling me, like, because to me that seems like you're just making mistakes. I said, on behalf of the Christian people, I am sorry that other Christians are judging you wrongfully for these items that you're telling me about, because we're not called to judge. There's only one judge, and that's God. Nowhere it says that we shall judge one another. It doesn't say that nowhere. It says in Matthew 7:1, it says, do not judge others and you will not be judged. So, and I kind of, you could tell that it resonated with him, because he's like, wow, that's different, because I wasn't doing the stereotypical Christian thing that he was used to, condemning him for not believing the views that I believed.
Well, absolutely. Because judgment only inhibits separation. It isolates people into feeling alone, where we're not supposed to be alone. We're not supposed to isolate each other. We're supposed to help each other and, work in groups and build each other up. And, where does judging get you anyway? It really doesn't get you anywhere.
Yeah. And it gives me, reminds me another verse in James 4:12, where it says, God alone gave us the law, is the judge. He alone has the power to save or destroy. So what right do we have to judge your neighbor? So it's like, to me, it's just saying, hey, God alone only has that judgment, and we have no right judging one another, because like I say, this is not our place. Our place is, I believe, is to uplift one another and to share each other's burdens, and to, and to learn from one another.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things in life is to learn from each other, because we should always have this continuous growth and always have continuous knowledge and just share our knowledge. I think that's kind of why we're doing this podcast thing too, is just to expand the positivity and just get people questioning things, because I know for me, I question everything. I really like science, so I like to question everything. And that's why I love spirituality with science, because it just hand in hand, it proves so much. So for us, or, for me, I like to question everything. And when I dig deeper into certain things, it exposes the truth behind a lot of different things. So judging, one, it's a lower vibrational kind of thing. And maybe we can have a podcast on vibrations, but judgment just is a lower vibrational form. But to compliment somebody and build somebody up is just an extreme vibration that, I don't want to be on that judgment vibration.
Right. I even go with when Jesus walked the earth, he was getting judged by the Pharisees that, because he hung out with the sinners and not what they considered the righteous people. And so even he was being judged by humans, and John 3:17 says God sent his son into the world, not to judge the world, but to save the world through him. And so, even, like I was saying, even Jesus was experiencing all this, all this judgment, and he was just trying to spread the light.
I wonder how bad the Pharisees felt when he judged Jesus so harshly that it sentenced him to death and he condemned him and everything. I wonder how he feels. Like, have you ever said something to somebody and then you just feel like crap afterwards? Like, man, I really shouldn't have said that. And how many times do you actually go apologize? Like the Pharisees, he couldn't apologize because that was like, done deal. But have you ever said something to somebody and you thought about it, again, and actually went back to apologize to that person for judging them too harshly?
I don't know. I'm trying to remember. I don't know. So God had recently showed me not too long ago, and I don't know how this ties into judgment, but this is what I'm getting. And I think it's just the power of authority of what, an authority I mean by what we say. And I believe that what we say is authority. And I think that's why judgment is so crucial, because when we speaking it, it gives us authority and it gives the words authority. So one day I had went to some church thing for, 3 days, and I got really close to God. And in those 3 days we let the kids stay home. My daughter, she's almost 16 and she was watching all the, everyone. And so the house was a little dirty, and this was a Monday. And so I was like, wow, this is a mess. They really made things a mess. And I always go back to scripture, because instead of saying, man, I got to pick all this stuff up and do this and do that, I had to change, I like to change my mindset, because you get so easily drug into a negative mindset that I don't want that. So I had to remember, and I forget what verse it was, but it says that and all you do, eat or drink or whatever you do, to do it for the glory of God. And so that's my go-to. And I forgot which where that in the Bible is, but anyway, so I had said that, like, I'm gonna do it for the glory of God. I'm gonna sweep these floors. I'm gonna clean these dishes. I'm just like doing it all for Him. It just makes things so much easier. So this was early morning, and I was just continuously moving the stuff, cleaning, putting things away. Then I look at my watch, and it was about 2 p.m. and I was like, wow. So where did the time go? I've been cleaning, since I dropped the kids off at the front of the bus at 7, and here it is 2 p.m. and I'm still cleaning. I look around and I'm like, wow, this is it don't look like I've done anything. And the crazy thing about God is that as soon as I spoke that, it's really weird. I was like downloaded a testimony of me. So I was like testifying against myself on what I used to tell my wife. And it was pretty powerful, because in the past, I was telling my wife, oh man, what did you do all day? It doesn't look like you've done nothing. I said, why are you being lazy? Like, why are you lazy? Why are you doing this? And so I was given that stuff authority, and God showed me exactly what I was doing. And I was like, oh my God, like I felt so bad, because I'm like, I had no idea of what I was doing and saying to my wife until God revealed to me what I was doing. So it was really weird. Like I testified against myself. It was like a playback of time in my mind. And it was so fast too. It was like, it happened in seconds, that I was telling my wife, oh my God, you're lazy, because it doesn't look like you've done nothing. Because when I was cleaning, I looked around and it didn't look like I was doing anything, but I was. And I was like, wow, I felt so terrible. I was like, thank you, God, for revealing this to me, because I was giving the spirit of laziness authority over my house because I was declaring it. I was saying, wow, you're lazy. And I was wondering for so long, like, why is that spirit heavy within my house? And God had just so beautifully answered to me by me testifying against myself that I was creating that spirit by giving those words authority, that you are lazy, or, I was declaring it. Therefore, I was getting it. So I was fighting myself, and I was giving authority to that because I spoke it. And I think this is why judgment is so crucial, because you're giving authority over to the enemy when you're speaking negatively about someone. And, I think this is why it's crucial that we don't judge, because the power of the tongue has the ability to destroy or give life. Two options. It's really, it's just really crazy. So which one are you going to be? Are you going to be the life to someone else, or are you going to be the death to someone else? So I urge you that you take heed to your words, because they are authority given to you by God. And when you misuse them, you're going to know. God is eventually going to tear you down, and you're going to testify against yourself. Just like I testified against myself, because I can't argue that. There's no way. It was like me telling on me. It was like, ooh, you did this. And I'm like, oh, yes, I did do that. And it was awesome. And I thank God that he was able to clarify that and remove that mindset, because I don't want that mindset. I definitely don't want to be giving authority over to anything that doesn't add value to anyone else. Like, I don't want to give that negative vibe, or that negative vow, or whatever you want to call it. I don't want to give that out. I want to give the higher form. That way I'm reciprocating the same energy, because all your debts eventually going to be called in, good or bad. And it's not going to be on your timing. It's going to be on God's timing. So when my debts get called in, I want them to be positive.
So I will definitely say that God is amazing in the way that he shows us things and how he teaches us lessons, just showing you through yourself what you were doing. I think that's amazing. And to go back to giving words authority, we just spoke on this on our last podcast. When you speak words to life, so it is written, so it will become, it will happen. You are labeling a situation or something and bringing it to life. And there's actually a quote by Earl Nightingale that says, when you judge others, you do not define them, you define yourself. So that kind of goes hand in hand of what you're saying, because, you spoke the words of laziness in your home about somebody. So that reflected on yourself. And then you're over here like, oh, and then God's like, oh, well, you just spent all this time cleaning and doing things. And that's kind of where it goes into, you reap what you sow, you get what you give. So you are given that spirit of laziness, authority in your house, which, that's what you sowed. And so what you got back was you being lazy. And It's your fault, because you spoke it into reality, into truth, and it came back and bit you in the butt.
Yeah. Oh, no, it did. And I testified against myself. And it was very interesting, like, that God would show me that. And it was, it blew my mind. And it definitely changes the way I think and the way I speak. And I don't even try to speak negatively, jokingly, because your body doesn't know the difference. It just knows authority, and which is what you say. Very interesting, though.
No, you definitely bring up a good point. And like I said, with Emoto's research with the water and stuff like that, it affected the water. Just like when you speak things, it makes them come true. It puts truth to those words, especially when you speak it or when you write it. It just enhances those words and makes those words and those actions around it more powerful.
And I always think about the authority that God has given us to put our words into use, where Jesus was, I forget what scripture this was too, was Jesus says that those who believe in me will perform the same miracles as I do, but if not greater, because I will be with the Father. And those miracles, was all through authority, through the mouth, right? Praying over, talking things out. So it's powerful. Like, your words, like we were saying, to bring life or death and destroy or bring miracles. And so this stuff, you dig really deep into it, it just really makes you think deep down inside on the person you are or the person you want to be.
Yeah. So ultimately, it just pretty much comes down to is don't judge, or if you are judging, don't judge everyone so harshly. Be kind to yourself, be kind to others when it comes to words and expressing your opinions and your feelings, because it ultimately comes down to you, how you're treated in return, or what situation you're giving life to.
Oh, yeah. And it reminds me of another thing too, is like and there's probably people that you've worked with as well about this example I'm going to give. So like you work with someone with that negative mindset, always judging, whatever the lower form of energy always brings, right? Just criticism, destruction, judgment. And the second that someone reciprocates the same energy back to them, oh, it's a problem. And I run into a lot of those people that think that they have some status over people, that they could talk to them how they feel, and whether it be negative or positive. A lot of times it's negatively, and because no one really complains about, oh, you're talking to me too positively. It's always complaining about negatively. So I'm going to focus on negatively. So when these individuals are talking negatively all the time, when someone else brings it back to them, it's a problem, but it's not a problem for them to speak negatively against others, if that makes sense.
No, it does. I'm just over here giggling because I'm like, could you imagine? Can you please stop talking to me so positively? You are raising my vibration way too much. Can you stop being so nice to me?
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just giggling about it.
And I was just thinking about it. Like, no one really says, like, hey, calm down. There's a little too much positivity for me. No.
Yeah.
No one. No, I've never really heard of anyone say that. It's always negatively that we grip on so much. Instead of the positive stuff we should be gripping on, we always grip on the negative. And I don't know if that's just how we're wired or choose to be wired, but it's like,
I honestly, I think it's just because people aren't used to being, receiving that positive reinforcement or those positive words. Like, because I know that I'm not, like, when people, like, my husband yells at me all the time. So when he compliments me, I'm just like, I get all awkward and I'm just like, and he's like, you just say thanks. And I'm like, thanks. Okay. So, but because people aren't used to being treated that way, people aren't, they're not used to getting positive words or anything like that. Everyone's just so used to being surrounded by negativity that we are, it's kind of sad. We're more uncomfortable in the positive energy than we are in the negative energy, which is completely opposite of what we're supposed to be doing.
Yeah. I mean, I agree 100% because, it's like, it's almost like, we could say, let's say that I never knew you and, we were neighbors and I waved hi to you every day, but you didn't know me. I just waved hi. Say, hey, what's going on, neighbor? And then went on my way.
I'll flip you off.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry.
Then you flip me off. And then out of maybe 1,000 times.
Oh man, that's really where you were going with that?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
all right.
That's what I was going with that. And like, let's say you just flipped me off one day. And out of the 1,000 times that you waved, and I'm going to remember, oh, I'm going to get to know her name because she flipped me off. Then we divesting energy into why she flipped me off and the negative value, and then we discredit all the positive things that came from it, and just we're just going to hang on to this little birdie that flew by that you happened to give me, and so it's just very, very, very interesting that how we respond to negativity. We're so quick to grab a hold of it and discredit so much positive that we just lose reality. And when I do things, especially when I was running my sections in the military, people had a hard time giving credit to the good. They're like, no, he messed up here. I said, okay, I see that. But what about his past? And if the positive outweighs the bad, then it just looks like he's just having a bad day, or he or she is having a bad day. And that's how I look at it. You know, if it's a repeat offense, then okay, this person is doing it repeatedly, is not learning. So, you know, we're going to have to push administrative stuff, right? But, you know, just thinking back on some of these mindsets that's out there, it's kind of disturbing, because it's like, it just demotivates individuals that, you know, pour their whole hearts out into things, and they're like, oh, I see this little speck here, and we're going to highlight that. And we're not going to highlight nothing else, because it's easier for me to pick this flaw apart, because, you know, whatever I can't even give a reason why.
Yeah, we'll pick it apart and then not even address it with the person, or to find out what is the underlying cause to help fix it. Because, you know, going back to the example with me flipping you off, if you're waving at me, like, you don't know me, you don't know why I'm flipping you off. Maybe, you know, because I am who I am. Maybe I'm flipping you off because I think highly of you, you know, maybe I'm all excited. I'm like, hey, you know, you don't know. So until you ask somebody and actually get to, you know, to the root of your differences. And I think that's another thing is, you know, we don't look at people's differences. We just kind of assume whatever our culture or whatever our thoughts are the most correct. And we're not very diverse in that, but that's another topic. But, you know, we don't take the effort to go to that person and look at the why. You know, we just judge them off of the surface things, and that's about it. And then just keep going about our day. So we have no idea what this person's going through.
Well, not only that, and if we're going to give credit to the bad, we need to give credit to the good.
Yes.
And people need to realize that we need to account for everything to be fair, and not just that one bad thing, or maybe a couple bad things that they've done. And they, you know, and then we're just discrediting all the good stuff that they've done or ever done. And it just, you know, to me, it just doesn't add value to the individual or to myself, you know, I mean, because it's happened to me where, you know, I made mistakes, and all people tend to worry about is the mistakes I made, as opposed to the good things that I brought. It's just so interesting to me that we just hang on to that stuff, and we just need to let it go, to look at both sides of the spectrum, negatively and positively. Look at the whole picture as opposed to half the picture.
So yeah, it just ultimately comes down to try to limit your judging, be nice to each other, be nice to yourself, think positively. And, you know, anyone who's ever worked or played on a sports team, you understand that working together creates a better outcome. So why don't we start lifting each other up instead of, you know, breaking down their foundations? Yeah.
And bottom line is, don't judge one another. You know, we're not called to judge one another. We're called to learn from one another and lift each other up, carry each other's burdens. If we're experiencing something negative, or someone else that you're working with experiencing something negative, you know, give credit to the positive too. That way you're letting those individuals know, like, hey, I recognized you fell here, but I also recognize what you brought to the table as well.
Yes. I'm going to end this podcast on a positive note and on a quote by Do Zantamata. And it says, through judgment, we separate. Through understanding, we grow. So don't forget to like, share, subscribe, comment on any of our videos, please. It does help us get the word out faster. Even if you're one of those closet people who are like, I don't want people knowing I'm listening to this, please just be yourself, be authentic, like it, share it, express who you are. If you like this content, help us get it out.
All right. Well, till next time.
See ya.